Welcome to Sports Talk in the Burgh, the show where 3 to 5 college students yell at each other about sports that none of us were good enough to play. I'm your host, Brett McGulick. Joining me is Jordan Mork and Finn Lyons for the show today. Now, last week we may have watched Kendrick in the halftime show, but it was Travis Scott who infected us with his sicko mode, unfortunately. But we're back, and today's show will be wrapping up the NFL season in a nice little bow. So, starting off our show with a big game. The Philadelphia Eagles played spoiler to the Swifties' wildest dreams, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs in a blowout win on the big stage in New Orleans. The Eagles were firing on all cylinders, while the Chiefs came out cold and could not catch up. But what was the biggest reason for this Eagles dominance? Jordan, you start.
I think it has to be the Eagles' front seven. Howie Roseman has done a phenomenal job from his whole tenure of building a great defensive line, and in the Super Bowl they showed themselves to be the very best in the league. They were just all over Patrick Mahomes. They did not let the Chiefs get any type of momentum at all, and you also have to blame this on the Chiefs offensive line too. When you have your Pro Bowl All-Pro guard playing tackle for you, that's not a recipe for success. They did draft a tackle in the second round, but he turned out to be one of the worst tackles in the whole entire league. So this is what happens when you don't properly address your line through free agency or the first round of the draft and try to get proven guys.
And with that, they didn't even blitz, and they got to Mahomes many a time.
They didn't need to.
And, you know, the defense really is like the Eagles' specialty. That's their thing, them and now Saquon. But I want to highlight Hurts. I'm a quarterback guy. I love to put it all on the quarterback, and he played great. He had a great game. He did what he needed to do. He was 17 for 22 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, 72 rushes, and a touchdown. I mean, what else can you ask for him? He did it all in not even a full game. He didn't have to play the full game because he did what he needed. He built off the defensive success, and he just showed out.
It's crazy to think that just this Eagles team fired on all cylinders, obviously. But I feel like we really got to highlight the defense here. I mean, Jalen Hurts obviously had a fantastic game, and he did exactly what he needs to do. But this defense played shutout football for an entire half against Patrick Mahomes, a 3-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time MVP. I don't know. They had a 38.1% pressure rate without blitzing. They had over 42 dropbacks. It's just insane to me how well this defense came up in this game.
And like this game to me was very different from the last time the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Because it seemed like last time Patrick Mahomes was still able to do some of his magic. He looked way more impressive in that game and in this one. But the Eagles were just able to downright just shut down any single thing that the Chiefs wanted to do. They couldn't get it to Travis Kelce. They couldn't get it to DeAndre Hopkins. I'm pretty sure they didn't even run the ball more than like 10 times in the first half. So they just overall just got absolutely obliterated and shut down by the Eagles defense, especially their front seven.
It was an obliteration indeed. But so if we're sticking with the Chiefs here, in the last show we discussed the similarities between the Patriots and the Chiefs dynasty. Or maybe is it the Chiefs dynasty no more? Like Jordan said, Patrick Mahomes struggled in that game, being shut out into the third quarter. The question after his horrible loss, do we still bring him up in the GOAT conversation? Finn, what do you think about this?
He has one bad playoff performance, and suddenly he's out of the GOAT conversation. What are we doing? What are we doing?
It's stupid.
Six All-Pros, 6 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, 2 MVPs, Super Bowl MVPs, 30,000 yards. I mean, he's still young. He still has a whole nother maybe decade ahead of him to catch up to Tom Brady, but I don't think he will. Personally, I think Tom Brady will still be the GOAT at the end of his career, but there's no reason to take him out. I mean, Peyton Manning's still even in the conversation, and he has nowhere near the accolades as Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. So I think it's just kind of ridiculous that we let one bad game define a player.
Yeah, and I think people that are asking, is he out of this conversation? No. Okay, the Chiefs have won 3 rings in the last 5 years. People have to remember, it took the Patriot a decade to win after they won their first three rings. So this is not an odd thing. Patrick Mahomes is only 29. Andy Reid is only 66. I think if you have those two guys, that's all you need for the Chiefs to be good for the future. Sure, they will lose some people like Travis Kelce soon, and they will lose. They just lost DeAndre Hopkins to retirement. But what the best teams do is the best teams go out there and retool, and you have the best quarterback in the league at the end of the day. So no, I do not think that their dynasty is over, and I do not think that Patrick Mahomes is out of the conversation.
You mentioned Tom Brady, and that Mahomes may catch up to him one day, or he may not. You guys had conflicting points on that, but Brady beat him in the Super Bowl. Does that add anything to that argument?
And that's why if Mahomes is ever going to be solidified as the GOAT, he's going to have to pass Tom Brady's championship records, because Tom will always have that above him. I don't know. I think it's a ridiculous conversation to even have.
And he beat him in the Super Bowl, sure, but football is a team game, and the Chiefs' offensive line that year especially was absolutely putrid. I don't feel like that should hinder Mahomes' chance at all just for being the GOAT just because.
And again, one bad loss to the greatest quarterback of all time shouldn't define
not at all,
any conversation.
Do you guys think that he's going to take as long as Brady to get back to the Super Bowl? Is this going to be a quick turnaround for Mahomes?
We'll have to see. He's reaching that stage in his career where he's plateauing out. Not saying that he's not good anymore. I'm not saying that, but he's plateauing as this elite quarterback. We know where his number's going to be. He had a down year this year, and he's going to have to figure out a new style of play going. He's going to be 30 at the end of the year, so we'll have to see what Mahomes and the Chiefs do with his sort of. He's hit the ceiling.
You never know with teams like this. Teams like these always come back, and they always find a way to win. But if we head back over to the Eagles, the winner of this year's Super Bowl, or rather, let's go to their cross-state counterparts, the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they had yet another disappointing end of the season, in a season where it seemed like they had everything figured out in the first half. The annual Mike Tomlin collapse struck again. Do these two teams in PA boast any similarities? Or how close or how far are the Steelers from becoming anything like the Eagles? Jordan, what do you think about this?
Look at my face. Look at my face, camera. Zoom in, please. Please. No. They have no chance. They're light years away from being even close to the Eagles. The Eagles right now have built a dominant offensive line and defensive line through the draft, through free agency, and whenever there's a player that is close to being done, they have a replacement for them instantly. Jason Kelce just retired, and they instantly put in Cam Jurgens. The Steelers do not have that type of personnel. And then you have the Eagles have a franchise quarterback. Steelers have still yet to find that since Big Ben retired. They have the best running back in the league right now, and the Steelers do not even know who their running back is going to be headed into next season. Also have two franchise receivers in Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. The Steelers have a receiver who people don't even know if he wants to be on the team next year. They have a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. The Eagles just have so much more than the Steelers have. The Steelers are not in the position to compete I don't think the next five years. I think it's going to take a long time for the Steelers to fundamentally change their organization, their identity a little bit. Because guess what? The Steeler way is not working. The standard is mediocrity. Something needs to change.
Jordan, I'm pleasantly surprised with your take. I know you as the Steelers glazer, and you're absolutely right. I mean, no quarterback, no running back. They have one good wide receiver. Their secondary needs to be retooled. The only thing they have is their D-line. Their D-line was sixth in rushing defense. This team is not good, and they want to go after Daniel Jones, apparently. What are we doing?
Daniel Jones?
No, what are we doing?
No. Please,
Put Daniel Jones in there. You're going 8-1, and you're losing by 40 in the wild card.
Oh, man.
There's at some point, when is losing in the wild card round by 20 points enough? It's not a sustainable method. And you're not getting the draft capital because you're always picking 20th or 25th or something like that. You're not picking up elite guys. That's the problem. They have
also,
no
they
pipeline.
are so afraid to even trade up in the draft to potentially get an elite guy. You cannot build an elite team if you're just going to sit there at 20 every year and pick a good player, sure, but you need a top-tier blue-chip players. The Eagles have got that year after year after year. The Steelers just can't do it.
You know, I'd like to consider myself a big Steeler football guy, slightly biased maybe, But if we're being real here, I just don't think the way this team is running out right now, I just don't see any way that this team turns it around in anywhere close to what the Eagles have. But this is going to do it for our Super Bowl portion of this episode. Coming up after the break, we'd have a little bit more into the other remaining stories for the NFL season. So don't go away.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover their unique mix of all kinds of traits.
Where'd Wiley go? Where's Wiley? Ah, there she is. Paw?
Do you remember being an ancient wolf? Do you ever feel the call of the wild?
You're a renegade cop, and I'm a con woman with nothing to prove. But together, we could really solve this murder.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but all of them are pure love.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. Let's continue our season recap of the NFL. Before we retreated to the downfall of the Chiefs, a few Sundays ago, the NFL presented their NFL honors that Thursday night, with the big story going into the show being Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson in the MVP race. Ultimately, Josh Allen would end up winning that race and win his first MVP. However, there's been debate on whether he is the rightful winner of this award. Did the NFL make the wrong choice, or is Allen their number one guy? Finn, what do you think about this?
I have one question to ask you, too. What does MVP stand for?
Most valuable player.
Exactly. Allen was objectively, well, besides Saquon, but it's a quarterback award. So, but he's objectively the best player on any team, or most valuable, on any team. If you take Josh Allen off the Bills, they're 3-14. There's no saving that team without Josh Allen. Lamar, you replace him with a mediocre quarterback, they make the playoffs.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Lamar had 8 Pro Bowlers on his team that Josh Allen's 1. He had a more stacked roster, and the Bills, everyone was, it's a rebuilding year. They're going to be third in the division, and they exceeded expectations. They got their second seed. They won the division, and I don't want to hear about stats. I don't. Dak had better stats last year than Lamar. Didn't win it. 1,000 more yards, more touchdowns, more yards per game for Dak last year than Lamar. You want to talk about an undeserved MVP? Last year, Lamar. Also, Josh Allen had better stats than him last year.
Listen, now I will go on and say that Lamar maybe did not deserve the award last year. But this year? We serious, Finn? He was undoubtedly the most valuable player in the National Football League, all right?
Did Derrick Henry leave the Ravens?
No, he didn't leave the Ravens.
He was the reason that Lamar put up those stats.
The reason Lamar's been putting up stats like these his entire career.
Not last year.
With nobodies as well.
Nobody?
No, he had no.
Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Isaiah
Likely. So get down just a little bit here.
Listen. Mark Andrews washed, all right?
Yeah,
washed.
just this year.
Just this year. Let me talk a little bit about Lamar and what he was doing, all right? 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I know you said that you don't care about stats, but come on. He led the league over Josh Allen in total touchdowns with 49, all right? 900 rushing yards. He's finished 12-5 in the second hardest division in football, and the only reason the Bills beat them in the playoffs is because Mark Andrews has sticky fingers, all right?
That's not the only reason. Did you watch the game?
I did watch the game.
Then you would know that that's not the only reason.
Listen. Josh Allen.
Also, regular season award, by the way.
Okay, it is a regular season award. But in the regular season, Lamar Jackson was objectively better in every statistical category.
I don't care if he was better. He's not most valuable.
I think you got to put into perspective the dual threat of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. That takes away so many eyes from the defense, having just that looming threat of Derrick Henry.
James Cook isn't
But he's not Derrick Henry.
He's not Derrick Henry, but let's not act like James Cook is not an amazing offensive weapon who I think the Bills underutilize, all right? Like, we're not just going to sit here and act like the Bills do not have some weapons. They have weapons, all right? Just people went into the season thinking that they were going to be mediocre or finish third in the division. Those people just do not know football. I'm sorry. Josh Allen, he had a great season. He deserved a consideration, but Lamar Jackson deserved this MVP award. He should have been Lamar MV3, all right?
Ridiculous.
Unfortunately, we do have to move on from this discussion. Great points from you guys, but ultimately, Josh Allen was the one who's taken home the hardware. But wedged between the championship Sunday, and the Super Bowl, another one of the NFL's annual end-of-season events, the Pro Bowl, occurs. The Pro Bowl has taken some criticism in the past, mainly for lack of effort during the game. So the NFL elected to change the format to flag football over the past few years, but there's still something missing. Is there any hope for the Pro Bowl? Do you guys have any crazy ideas to help improve this game? Jordan, what do you think?
Not gonna lie, I don't think there's any hope. They've tried everything that they could, I think. They tried with all these skills competitions and moving to flag football. None of this works because guess what? Nobody cares. The players don't care. The fans don't care. This is just a thing that no one cares about, and the NBA is suffering the same issue. No one cares about these all-star games if the players are not gonna play hard. And you cannot, I don't think there's anything that you can do for the players to play hard. You can throw in incentives, but these players are already making millions of dollars. They're not going to go out there and play super hard and potentially injure themselves and risk losing more millions of dollars than the NFL could give you with the incentives for this. I don't think that there's anything that they can do, honestly.
And I completely agree. You gotta scrap it, man. It's time. It's time to scrap all-star games in general. You've seen every sport has a terrible all-star game and nobody cares. And I think an idea that I actually got spawned from the Four Nations in the NHL, I think like a regional thing would be interesting. You know, like a Northeast region, Southeast region, something like that. Because you can't do a Four Nations with football. Obviously, there's not enough international representation. So if you do state regions, something like that, I think that might build some more interest. Be like, oh, I'm representing my state. You know, that's about it. And like you're gonna bring up with incentives, I just don't think they care.
Well, maybe like the Four Nations, maybe it's all about that pride. Maybe they, like with what you were saying about the regional thing, or maybe the incentive isn't even money. Maybe it's something else. Unfortunately, we'd have to wait to think about what that is. That's more of a Roger Goodell kind of thing to think about.
That's why we're sitting here.
Yeah. But that's why we're sitting here and not commissioners of the NFL, right? But I like what you brought up about the Four Nations. Maybe it's that pride, everyone fighting for their countries. Maybe it's something along those lines that they have to kind of figure out, and something that the players want to play for.
It's just that thing to me, I don't think it will work because you're depending on the Pro Bowl roster, you might not have enough people if you're doing it like statewide.
It wouldn't be a Pro Bowl at that point. It would be the best players from each region.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If it's something like that, I think that'd be a little bit interesting. But still, the players aren't gonna play hard.
Yeah, I think inherently the problem with an NFL All-Star game is that it's the contact sport.
Yeah.
With the other ones, you can avoid